So here's what happened is a proud member of the Why Though podcast community. Hey y'all, we are back. It is Neysha and Carolyn. It feels like
How
it's
did
been
you
a
say
while.
my name just now?
I said Carolyn.
You said Caroline.
I thought I said Carolyn.
No, you did not.
What is wrong with me today? Throw it all away. Anyways, scratch that out, Carolyn.
No, I'm keeping it because it's funny.
No, because I'm
Yes.
just exhausted. This is exhaustion, Neysha. This is what y'all are getting. But I'm happy to see Carolyn's beautiful face. But anyway, we're back. It's been a while. A lot of things have happened, and I'm just happy to talk about the things I have watched and read with Carolyn again. How have you been?
I've been good, busy, and tired.
Yes, that's the vibe right now, as the kids would say.
Yeah, January, February have been busy. I covered I covered Sundance in January.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm getting ready to cover South by Southwest, which means setting up interviews, doing some interviews. Right now, I've recorded a couple of interviews so far. And I'm also trying to set up other interviews for other films and outlets because a girl is trying to get paid this year. Amen. Blessings upon my bank account. Blessings upon your bank account. Neysha, let's put that into the universe. Let's manifest.
I love that for us. Let's manifest. Let's do it. No, I agree. I am just like, and on my end, I have been preparing for my move, wrapping up my last semester of grad school. And honestly, I just have not had the time to work on some of the special projects that I have planned. But I'm looking forward to, like, once March is over, that I can get back into it, because it's just, there's even been some, like, I'm putting together some panels for DreamCon. So I am going to DreamCon. I got my ticket. I'm very excited to go there, have a good Black time with a lot of other Black cosplayers and my friends. And I'm so excited because it's my first time going there. But I'm really excited to do these panels. So I'm really fingers crossed that at least one of the panels I'm submitting, like I'm submitting 3, another person I know is submitting 3. Like we're trying to brainstorm ideas and put them out there. So I'm excited about that. And then, what else has been going on? Personal life, bought a house with my sister. So that's something I'm looking forward to, just like I said, being in a new space. So y'all won't see that big old open space when me and Carolyn go back to recording video. I'll actually have a nice office and content creating space that I'm excited about.
Done a video in a while.
We haven't. We'll get back to it. Because I enjoyed doing the videos. It's fun. Y'all can actually see our facial reaction. But yeah, that's what's going on. I'm just really looking forward to con season. Oh, and I've been regularly reviewing some anime, but now I'm going to get back into writing more features. So I have some features that I'm really excited about that I'm working on this week. So y'all can keep an eye out for that.
Yay! We're doing a lot this year. Yay, us! But we also have to make sure that we rest.
Yes, we do.
We have to pace
rest,
ourselves.
drink water.
I need to do better drinking my water. I find in winter, I don't drink as much water as I should in winter. I don't know why.
You have to. That dry air, and you're in Canada. Mm-hmm. Of all the places to not stay hydrated in the winter, you're in Canada, ma'am.
I know. I should be better at it, but you know what it is? I need to drink water that has flavor.
Anywho, on that note, let's get into what we've been reading and watching. Carolyn, I know you said you didn't have a book. Mine will be very brief because I also have not seen a book in a while. But I'm very excited about this series. Big Ethel Energy on Webtoon has returned. Mm-hmm. I'm very excited because if y'all remember, or if you're new to the show, I did review the season 1 of Big Ethel Energy. And for those of you who are wondering why did she say season when she said a book, it's a webtoon, and the way webtoons are released as seasons, and each chapter is called a episode. So just to remind y'all, Big Ethel Energy is basically Ethel from the Archie comics Ethel. So the title is called Archie Comics : Big Ethel Energy. It's by Carl Brown, Ahmed, and Siobhan is the artist. And honestly, I'm really impressed because I feel like the way they could have wrapped up season 1, it could have been one and done. but I'm really excited about how the story towards the end of season 1 gave a lot of opportunity for like new things to develop and new drama to flourish. So I'm looking forward to that. I've spent money to read the first 7 episodes with the Fast Pass, and I have no regrets. I think y'all, if y'all have not checked it out, y'all should. We also have a interview that I did with the creator that'll be up soon, and yeah, y'all should definitely listen to that, especially want to get some more behind the scenes information of how the series came to be. But on that note, let's go ahead and get into TV.
Yes. So my TV show is actually one that's based on a book. It's called The Confessions of Frannie Langton. It is a BritBox adaptation of the novel written by Jamaican novelist Sarah Collins. And it's this story about this former slave, Frannie Langton, who was brought from Jamaica to England in Georgian era England. So that's the late 17th century. Slavery had not been abolished as yet, of course. And she is given to this man to live in his house and basically be a servant, but then she becomes a companion with his wife, Madame, played by Sophie Cookson, and Frannie, who is played, I think, brilliantly by Carla Simone Spence. She is this extremely intelligent, eloquent, proud, beautiful, and self-assured Black woman who falls in love with Madame, who, as I said, is the wife of this wealthy, rich white man in England. And their love affair is, of course, fraught with tension and obstacles and angst because it's a Black man with a white woman. And to some people, they might see this story as an ill-fated romance story, because what happens is that Frannie is accused of murdering Madame and her husband. And even right until the end, we don't know if she ever really does, because she herself isn't sure of her memory. She doesn't remember killing them. She doesn't remember what happened on the night they died. But while she's in prison and awaiting trial, she begins to write down her memoir. And that's where the title of the show and the book comes from, The Confessions of Frannie Langton. And as she's recalling her life and writing this memoir, confessing to her life and the things she's done, she goes back through from her childhood, where, of course, she faced extremely traumatic experiences and situations on this plantation house in Jamaica, where she's working with this man who is basically a pseudoscientist, a doctor who's experimenting on Black people. Because, at that time, still now, actually, in this day, white quote unquote scientists and medical professionals believe that Black people were less than. They saw us as animals, and they dissected the bodies of Black people. They used slaves for medical research and scientific research. And as we know, like the medical practice of gynecology came about because of the experiments that were done on Black women,
living, not even dead.
Exactly. They weren't dead. These women were tortured. And so the show kind of like not touches on gynecology specifically, but how medical professionals experimented on Black people. And so Frannie's recounting these horrific memories, and then she's recounting her love affair with Madame. And to some people, they'll say, oh, this is romance, and this is like, oh, angsty and thing. And for me, I saw it as a cautionary tale of not only Black people becoming involved with white people, but I saw it as a cautionary tale for anyone becoming involved with a person who does not understand you, who does not understand your heritage, who does not understand your culture, who does not understand the history of where you came from, be it a Black person, be it a South American person, be it someone from South Asia, East Asia. Like we all have, like, because of slavery and because of colonialism and imperialism, predominantly people of color from all around the world have extremely traumatic histories with Western white people, with Europeans, with Americans. And when I say Europeans, I mean, I'm including all of Western and Eastern European people, including the Dutch, the French, the Germans, the Spanish, of course, the British, You know, these people all enslaved and tortured and hunted people of color all over the globe. So I kind of saw this show as like going into that, you know, that history and going into those kind of situations, because I think if we put the story of the enslavement of Black people aside, like if you, for instance, made this a film about a Hawaiian native becoming involved with a white person at that point in time, it would talk about how the Hawaiian people were persecuted by Americans, you know, and by Europeans. They had their land stolen and all of that. So I think Sarah Collins, she did a fantastic job writing this. I haven't read the book, but from what I've seen of the show, like I can't wait to read the book because I have the book now. But I think the production team did a very good job adapting this story and making this a very human story based on a Black woman, you know, because they talk about colorism. They talk about how Black women, how our hair, how we had to sacrifice our hair, you know, like how even till today, Black women are still judged for our hair, you know, because they touch on those kind of things. And it's going to be released on BritBox in North America on March 8th. In North America, I think Latin America and in parts of Eastern, I believe, or is it the Pacific regions? But because it already was released in England, where BritBox is, because BritBox is a streaming platform and it's a kind of like BBC, but it's going to be released in North America on March 8th. And I got a chance to interview Sarah and Carla Simone, and I'm going to post that interview separate because it was about half hour. So that's going to be a separate interview segment for So Here's What Happened in Carolyn Talks. But I do hope that I'm going to try my best to promote this show because I think it's very important, because a lot of people is going to be, yes, it's a queer love story. It's about a love story between two women. But I think me personally, having the history I have, because I'm Barbadian and I come from the Caribbean and the history of slavery in the Caribbean, like I kind of relate to that aspect of Frannie's life. And so I do think if a lot of people watch it, it's going to create some like extremely interesting discussions online. And I think it's probably one of the best shows that I've seen so far for this year. And I'll also be getting to do a separate interview with Sarah too. So that's another interview that we'll have to cover the show. So that's my show talk for today, which is The Confessions of Frannie Langton, based on the book by Sarah Collins.
I love that. I mean, I'm very interested because like I love your perspective on this, because I think a lot of people genuinely like, oh my gosh, what a revolutionary love story that like for to take place at this time, and that might be the first. Which again, that multiple things could be true at once, but like I do agree, like and this has always been my problem with period films and like interracial relationships, because there is a power structure.
Exactly.
Like we have to. And I think to never acknowledge the power structure, it is messy and it's wrong. Like that's one of the reasons why I like The Woman King. Like they had their whole the one soldier had her whole, like, if you want to call it romance.
It was a one-night stand.
It was a one-night stand.
That was a hit and a quit it.
Girl, you was horny and you're young and you realize you ain't never gonna have sex with nobody. But besides the point, it's just like, yeah, dude recognized his privilege. He like for himself, he had to recognize it himself. Like, yeah, these are your people, but also you are half white and you come from a certain level of class and status that she would never be afforded. So to ask her to come with you to your country, sir, what are you thinking? No. I would have screamed if she did. But again, like I appreciate that when films acknowledge the power structure, in that it should be something that's discussed more, and it's not just focusing on like, oh yes, our love will survive all. But anyways, nonetheless. So my TV show that I've been watching lately is The Last of Us. I'm just going to preface this right now. I have never played The Last of Us games. So I'm purely coming from just like having watched the series, New Eyes, all that. So I have no prior knowledge of the series or the franchise before this series. But yeah, so basically 20 years after a fungal outbreak ravages the planet, survivors Joel and Tess are tasked with a mission that could change everything, but things happen along the way. Of course, honestly, I've just been looking for another zombie show since The Walking Dead, to fill that void for me. And I feel like I like it. Like, I'm at least I'm tuning in and staying up until 9 o'clock every night for to not every night, on Sunday nights, to watch on HBO Max. And I'm keeping HBO Max enough to watch it. So I would say I enjoy this show. I think there's still a lot of I still don't understand what the directors and showrunner meant when they initially talked about this show and how they were trying to get across the point, like, oh yeah, this is going to be even better than the game because it's going to have more emotional impact that you can't do with video games, which, again, I've never played the games before, but this don't feel that different from what it feels like on The Walking Dead when I see people kill people. Like, I still feel like the showrunners and directors comments about, like, oh, because live action is the most highest form of, art, and like that for when it comes to entertainment. And I just, like, not really. I greatly disagree with this, but I will say the show is interesting and I like it. As someone who has not been familiar with the franchise before, and I would say, like, I'm curious to see, like, how they're I cheated and I, like, read some of, like, what happens in the future and, like, the sequel games. I'm curious, like, how are they gonna, like, build upon that? Are we gonna see it, like, by season? I do think my biggest problem has been the fact that they've changed the race of girls from the series to make them black, and then they die.
Okay, so you see, that's something I haven't seen anyone mention on Twitter. And I've seen, like, so many people talking about this, but I've never seen anyone
I saw a few people talking about it, and, like, again, until, like, I researched it and I looked at, well, what did his daughter look like before? And now she white. And, like, it's one of those things where it's like, very clearly Pedro Pascal is playing Joel. In the first episode, spoilers are off, y'all haven't heard it, the outbreak happens. So 20 years ago the outbreak happens.
Yeah.
Joel's daughter, he is searching and trying to get back to her because they got separated.
And no, Ellie's not his. It's Ellie that's his daughter, right?
Ellie is the companion.
It's a girl with him.
Yeah, she's the girl with him, and she seems to be immune to the fungal zombies. And the whole thing is, like, my whole problem. This is my problem whenever shows do this, because it's like y'all putting a diversity feather in your cap, but then you just kill off the characters. Like, we only get them for one episode and then they're gone. And now we have this up, and, like, this is something I need to research on, so I can't speak definitively on it, but I want to know more about Stormy Reed's character, because she showed up 2 episodes ago. Her and Ellie got bit, and because Ellie's immune, she's fine, but we don't technically get confirmation of what happened to Stormy Reed's character. So my whole thing
Storm
is, like,
Reed.
Dang it, Storm Reed. Isn't there another actress who's like Stormy?
Not that I know of.
I
know Stormy Weather, which is a song.
I feel like I'm mixing. Like, I know there is somebody else named Storm. I'm thinking of a musical artist. Y'all forgive me. Like I said, I am on E right now. But
Girl, I'm the same way. I always saying I'm always saying things wrong, and we both is tired.
We both is tired. But we excited to talk about shows and TV. But that's my whole thing. So I want to do a little bit more. I'm gonna give it the benefit of the doubt and keep watching it. But that is something that I've noticed where I'm just like, I don't feel comfortable with this. And now it's like, y'all got me feeling like Jessica Jones season 2, where y'all introduced women of color and then about half of them were killed. Just, they were there to just be the supportive best black friend, or like somebody. It is just like, And I'm not saying, and I'll say this, I'm not saying Joel's daughter should not have died because she was black. I'm saying, why did you cast the act? Like, why did you make them black? Make that character black only to kill them off?
And she could have stayed white, and that
she could have stayed white. I wasn't begging for y'all to change her or race bend her, but, like, it's like one of those weird things, because it's like people get upset about Ariel and Tinkerbell being casted black now by being casted as black actresses playing them now, and at the end of the day, yes, diversity is great. And we do want to see more Black people and more people of color in these TV shows and add more color and variety and diversity. At the same time, it is something weird and disingenuous about, oh, hey, we have a quota and we can say we casted this many Black actors, but they were never going to be on this show long term. So bye. But hey, we did it. And it's just like, y'all just want to put a feather in your cap. So I'll be continuing to watch closely. I'm gonna see if that happens, if I continue to see that trend, because I just feel like that's the first episode. I haven't seen anywhere else, but I don't like it. I
haven't seen The Last of Us, and I will not be seeing The Last of Us, mostly because I hate the design of the clickers. And it's not that I hate them because I think they're bad. I hate them because they're so darn good. Like, they're hideous. Like, watching
they make my skin crawl.
Ugly as hell. And like, they trigger my tryptophobia. Like, I've seen clips of the games before, like when the games first started getting popular. Like, a lot of people, because like, like a lot of people that I follow are gamers. And I've seen them tweet about Last of Us, and like on Tumblr, I've seen like pics and stuff. So seeing the pics of like that, and there's like a big memory of watching someone play the game and like going through the steps and whatever. So I remember like also seeing actual clips of someone doing a playthrough of the game. But that being said, I saw when they're first promoting the show, like they dropped promotional images. And I saw one image of the clicker and I immediately muted anything.
You're just like, that was enough.
I felt like I wanted to throw like kudos, applause, like congratulations, flowers to the VFX team, to the design teams, to the animators, to everyone who worked on designing and animating and creating these creatures, because they're ugly and they're meant to be ugly. And I'm like, yes, you have terrified me, and I never ever want to see them ever again. And in saying that, like, thinking about the show, I've been wondering if this show is actually based on the movie The Girl with All the Gifts, because the story of that is that there's this fungus that spreads around the world, and it mutates people, and like it happens with spores, and it's like a fungus and stuff. So I've been wondering like the entire time, and I have to answer someone on Twitter if perhaps this game was inspired by that. But like in you talking about, and this was actually going to tie into something I wanted to mention about the Confessions of Frannie Langton. Like, you was talking about how how the writers and these directors, they're like, oh, we need to get our inclusion points, to make sure we tick this box and say, we can't be accused of whitewashing, or we can't be accused of making an all-white cast or racist casting or whatever, because we're going to include these characters of color. We're going to bring on these actors of color to play these characters. We're either going to kill them off or relegate them to side characters where we no longer ever see them again. And it kind of made me think about also the other thing, and you talked about power dynamics, because that also seems to tie into The Last of Us too, where the most powerful characters are white, or the ones given the most agency, or the ones who are like the better fighters or the better survivors are white. Thinking about the casting, the thing about, there's a lot of other shows that we've talked about like this where they seem to bring on characters of color or include them to say like we're doing an inclusive casting. And it kind of made me think of how like with the Confessions of Frannie Langton, the thing with that show is like the cast, I think, to me is equally Black and white, and there's some South Asian characters too, but it's talking mainly about the dynamics between Black characters, Black people and white people during this era of history, right? So it's equally Black and white. So like I think there's an equal number of Black people and equal number of white people, and it talks about the power dynamics. And that's the other thing, like the relationship between Madame and Frannie is like a lot of it has to do with power dynamics. And as you mentioned, a lot of people are going to get pulled tied up like, oh, the representation of queer people on screen in this era, whatever. But it's talking about the imbalance of power. Like, is their love, is them being gay more important than acknowledging the fact that this is a Black woman being involved romantically with a white woman, and the danger that places her in? Like, this white woman still has power over her by the fact that she's white, and also sees her her husband is the man that Frannie has been given to. He's wealthy and he has connections.
And see, my thing is that would have been an opportunity to examine it with an intersectional lens. That would have been a perfect opportunity because, like, and I haven't seen the movie, but I feel like that.
You mean the last? I think the cartoon. I think
well,
the
I mean,
show
from
cartoon.
like, I think I was talking about with yours with the Frannie.
I think to me they do. I think they do it really well. Like if people are looking at it honestly and objectively with the nuanced eye, they'll pick up on it because there's things the characters say and the things they do where you realize that what they're talking about is power imbalances. And they actually, and they think this show is what Bridgerton thinks it is.
Got it. Okay, that says it all for me. Because like I still have not seen Bridgerton, but from what I hear from everybody that talk about it, I just feel like y'all are not compelling me to watch this. Because like, yes, seeing all these people of color and Black people in an era that like we don't typically get to see ourselves in, granted it's fantasy, intrigues me. However, I also just cannot like suspend my belief enough to not keep in mind that like at any point can somebody own somebody in this realm or no? Like
they have to because they mentioned slavery, and I'm like, you can't be talking about slavery and still not be talking about how these white people benefiting and profiting.
Unless y'all establish, y'all gonna have to establish in the opening credits this takes place in a world where slavery never existed. Like I'm probably never gonna suspend my belief enough to be like, oh, that white dude and that Black woman, they will have an equal like relationship and no one will have a power over anyone. I'm like, even if you took away race, there's still like male and female power dynamics, which like, granted, I'm not saying it needs to be a utopia, like it needs to be a utopia where like everyone's equal. I'm just saying there's just certain things I can't, like we don't get the luxury of viewing it without those lenses.
Exactly. And that's the thing. I think to me, Bridgerton thinks that they're being progressive when they're really not. Because you can't be progressive if you're not going to acknowledge like things like power imbalances in wealth, in status, in gender. You know,
it just seems like a fantasy novel for people. Like it's and that's not me knocking it. It just seems like for anyone who loves Victorian era fantasy books, this was made for you. Because yeah, maybe you want to see yourself in that era, in that kind of storyline, and that's all I get from it. I'm like, I do not expect for that show to do anything progressive in the sense of like touching on anything. Like maybe they'll have like some episodes where they go there, but at the same time I'm like, I'm not expecting much. I from what I understand, it's tea, crumpets, and sex,
basically. And even then, like the things that happen because of the tea, crumpets, and sex, it's still things that need to be discussed in a way. Because like, for instance, like in the last season, like the female lead, who is played by a South Asian actress, forgive me for not remembering her name, she gets with the man that her sister is engaged to. Her sister genuinely loves this man and she's engaged to him. And people are like, oh my God, they and then they're like the older sister who's having the affair. They're like, oh my God, like, but their love is so amazing. Like they have so much chemistry. I'm like, are we going to ignore the fact that this girl is not only sleeping with her sister's fiance, but like she's betraying her sister. Like that's an issue. Like to me, I'm like, I would be like, I'm so sad this whole discussion about it. I'm like, I don't care if you're my sister or not. The point that you betrayed me in such a way, and I'm supposed to overlook it because you guys are in love.
I don't care about y'all being in love. Y'all cheated, and you, my sister, cheated with my man. You're both dead to me. I mean, eventually I might forgive my sister, but at the same time,
I ain't gonna stand by and watch you happily marry this man. What the hell?
I'm not going to just say, like, you should marry him. The hell?
Exactly.
No, both of you should leave my life forever if you want to be together, but don't expect me to be happy for you.
No, and not for years too. Like I'll be better at you and your dog. Like dishonor on you, your dog.
I will find love again. But I can be fine without either of you in my life.
Exactly. And even now in the third season that's coming up, they're trying to sell the whole romance between Queen Charlotte, who is again, and this is a real character now, like the actual person, Charlotte. She was married to a man, and yet they had a great love because she was a biracial. It's believed that she was biracial, and she and this man, they did have a genuine love affair. But he also went mentally insane, like legitimately, clinically mentally insane. And it created a lot of problems for Charlotte and for the country because he's their king and he's not able to rule. And it was, and like their love was tragic. But the show is not selling it as that. Like, the show is not going to acknowledge. It's not. They're in the promos are like the love affair of ages. I'm like, are you kidding me? This man caused so much issues for their woman. Their love did not have a happy ending. Their happiness in marriage was actually only a few years at the beginning. Most of their marriage was she was tormented because she was married to a man that she couldn't communicate with, and he created so much problems with her in the empire. And I'm like, that's a whole other discussion. We're not going to get in there, but. That's just to me, like, it all ties in. We were talking about how writers, even when they want to create like fictional scenarios and fantasy, they still don't know how to balance and handle nuanced writing when it comes to different areas of how society functions. You know, so like even in Last of Us, like you're saying, they killed off this. They made this character black only to kill her off. That is something that should be addressed. And it's like, what's the point of getting your diversity brownie points if you're just gonna do it this way? Like, don't bother at all.
It's, as we said, like to close it on like The Last of Us, it's disingenuous. And like I do want to correct it because I did look it up. So like at least Storm Reed's character, she was black in the game. So like again, I'm not upset if her character is dead in the series. It's the fact that like I would be upset if you replaced and recasted this person as a black person because like, and for everyone who's like, well, you got diversity and inclusion. Like, no, you just did that so that you could check a box on an equity tool and say you hired more black people this year. That's the problem. It's the thought that goes into it in the behind the scenes. And yeah, but onto something lighter.
We'll see.
We'll see. We'll get there. Let's go into Ant-Man and the Wasp: QUANTUMANIA. Carolyn, you have something to intro into first, though.
Yeah, well, actually, this is the perfect segue to Ant-Man and the Wasp: QUANTUMANIA because like we're going to talk about diversity casting because the character of Kang, who is the main protagonist in QUANTUMANIA and in the MCU going forward, is a black man who's played by Jonathan Majors.
Antagonist?
I wanted to say.
You said protagonist.
Oh, sorry. Protagonist, sorry. Antagonist, the villain, the big bad, is played by Jonathan Majors. And this is a casting where in the cartoon, because he's purple and blue, like he could technically be quote unquote any race of any ethnicity. But Disney and the MCU and Kevin Feige and those guys decided, you know what, let's go and cast a black man and make it Jonathan Majors. I got some issues with that, but we're going to get into it and why. But before we get into our intense and in-depth discussion of Ant-Man and the Wasp: QUANTUMANIA, the next audio you will hear will be a brief interview that I did on the premiere red carpet here in Toronto with actress Catherine Newton, who plays Cassie Lang, the daughter of Scott Lang and his first wife, because she is not Hope Van Dyne's daughter. She's her stepdaughter. So next couple of minutes, you're going to hear my discussion with Catherine on the red carpet here in Toronto for the Ant-Man and the Wasp: QUANTUMANIA premiere.
Hi, good night, Catherine. Thank you so much for stopping by to talk with us. First, here's what happened. So what happened was... Yes, exactly. That's literally how we started. So what had happened was we saw your and first thing first, I have to commend you on this. Like, I love the whole look, the dress, the shoes, the nails. I'm a nail aficionado myself.
I got these at CVS.
What?
Yeah.
Those are stick-on?
Yeah.
Girl.
I don't have time to do that. I don't even have time to pick out an outfit.
Okay. So you're slaying and you're being on video. The thing with this film, so this is the third Ant-Man film, and this is, as everyone knows, this is your introduction to the MCU. But I want to ask you particularly, the thing with the QUANTUMANIA is that it's a world unlike anything we've seen in the MCU so far, and it has characters that we've never seen in the MCU so far.
Right.
And Cassie's a character that we knew from when she was a little girl, but now she's a teenager. She's on the cusp of adulthood, on the cusp of womanhood.
Right.
And she's now embarking on an adventure with her parents and her grandparents. And she's meeting characters that could challenge her in a good way and a bad way. So can you talk about the good challenges that Cassie faces?
Right.
And the bad challenges that she faces?
Let's start with the challenges. She meets people that need help, and she doesn't think much about it, and she just wants to step in and be a hero for them. But as she learns, and I think anyone can relate to this, it's like you might want to do good, but if you don't know how to take care of yourself and like not hurt other people on the way to do good, then you're going to do more harm. So I think she learns the responsibility of actually what happens when you say you want to help somebody. about meeting new characters. That's my favorite part of the movie. Some of them are really cute, and I really, really like them and just want to squish them.
Wait, cute, squish them. Does that mean something that looks like a Furby? Maybe something brightly colored?
You're just gonna have to see, aren't you?
So how did you make Cassie your own character? Because as I said, she's a character that we know, and you have to make her stand out in the entire MCU.
I didn't have to try very hard to find myself in her. I think that I'm at a place in my life where I'm trying to figure myself out. So I'm really impatient. Like I rush and just want to get through it, and it makes me stumble and make mistakes, and I say things without thinking all the time, and I spoil things sometimes, and they call me Tom Holland. Like I'm still learning. So that's where Cassie and I like really related.
Okay, if you had to describe QUANTUMANIA in 5 words, what 5 words would you use to describe it?
I would say huge, colorful, magical, infinite, and exciting.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, and
Thank you,
congratulations.
and that's what happened.
Yes, thank you.
So that was my interview with Catherine. She was very fun. As you heard, we discussed a bit about nails and her fashion and about the progression of her character, Cassie. And I think, first of all, I think Catherine did a really good job playing Cassie because she is basically a new character. Because the last time that we saw Cassie in the Ant-Man film, she was a child. You know, she was a child. The snap happened. 5 years have gone by. And so now she's a teenager around the age of 17, 18. And she's finding herself as a young woman, and not only as her place in society, like she's an advocate. People will call her a social justice warrior, and I see nothing wrong with that. I don't know if people try to make that term.
It's a dog whistle politics way of like how people use the word woke as a way to be like, as a derogatory term. Like I at least that's what I get from it, because it's just like people are trying to make it seem like, oh, they're a social justice warrior. I'm like, yeah, she wants equal rights for people. She wants to protest for people. And don't get me wrong, I did like that she has this very strong sense of morality and everything, but I was just like, little girl, I need you to sit down, because I do feel like she has to notice her privilege, and I think she just feels like she can say whatever she wants. And she's a teenager, but she's a teenager. Teenagers always imagine being 17 again, and you think your worldview of the world is correct and right and sound. And it's just like, without like having all the, yes, she is a genius. She's a teenage genius, but it's the fact that like, she definitely, there were some moments I'm like, Cassie, you can't just jump into things without having knowledge or be like, oh, we'll help you. I'm like, you don't know these people. You don't know. What are you saying? You're helping. Like, yes, she has a big heart. And she like admires what her dad has done, but it's like at the same time, imagine what Scott went through after the fight with Thanos. I could imagine like, yeah, I'm going to fight crime, but I'm not looking for the next big bad to come. Like I'm not out here searching for. I want to be a father. I want to be a parent. I want to have a role in your life because I've missed 5 years of your like. Okay. Anyways, let's get into it.
But we are into it because that's that's how the film begins. The film begins with her actions as being this advocate for justice, and she's arrested and is speaking about her privilege. That's actually, I think a lot of the film is speaking about privilege in a very abstract way. But in talking about her privilege, there's also the fact not only is she a white girl and she's able to walk away, you know, in a way that no one else can, but also because she's Scott Lang's daughter, she's Ant-Man's daughter, she's a daughter of one of the Avengers, she's a daughter of one of the saviors of the entire universe. And like, she got arrested. Yeah, she's like, yes, I'm down for it. I'm willing to get arrested. I'm an accomplice. I'm going to be complicit, you know, and that's part of being an ally. Being a true ally means being an accomplice and being willing to put yourself on the line for your cause and for the people you're protecting. But in doing so, she is also not at risk the way other people are, because she just got to say, my dad is Scott Lang. He just got to turn up and she going to get out, you know? Right. She literally got to get out of jail. She literally has to get out of jail free card because of who her dad is.
I mean, also your stepmom is a billionaire. Like,
that too. That
helps. I mean, again, this is not us shitting on you know, Cassie's character, because I really did enjoy her. It's like, me too. For most of this phase, like introducing, you know, the new Young Avengers, I'm not upset with like how I loved how Riri was introduced. I like how Cassie has been introduced because like it feels natural. It doesn't feel like she was just, forced in. And I like how we open up with okay, we do get a sense of who Cassie is, and we get a sense of where Scott is, in his day-to-day life, and like how things have been going with him since everything happened. But then there's like getting in it, like I did. Okay, I'm going to address the graphics and like the special effects, because this is one of the things that bothered me from audiences. A lot of people hated the like special effects and graphics, and like that was one of the complaints I saw before I went to see the movie. And I can honestly say, I'm like, I guess I don't know what y'all were expecting when the movie is like 90% of it takes place on a green screen. Also, it looks like a Guardians movie. Like, not saying it looked like a Guardians movie, it just reminded, like, everything kind of reminds me of a Guardians movie. Like, so I guess I'm not upset over here about the graphics as much as other people. I don't know what y'all were expecting when 90% of the movie takes place in the quantum realm. And it's like, literally, we are 15 minutes in and we are in the quantum realm. So I guess, I don't know. I guess I would be more intrigued by somebody who is in the industry and does graphic effects and special effects. I know some people, there was like recently someone who worked on QUANTUMANIA. They said that because Black Panther was the priority, and I'm using finger quotes, they blamed that on the reason why the quality of QUANTUMANIA was not up to par. And I'm just like, you are Disney and Marvel. You are Disney. You have money. Y'all print money. If y'all are saying there was a priority, I don't know if I have a questions about like y'all operations, how much work are you giving to these artists and like these special effects people? Because I just feel like y'all had enough time. I'm not saying the people who are working on them. I'm saying Disney. Mm-hmm. Y'all been knew this movie was coming. Y'all had enough time. I don't understand what your budget looked like, but also I feel like y'all got the money to pay people to give it the quality it deserves. So I did not like that complaint, because I feel like it's pushing the blame on, oh, well, Black Panther had to take priority, so that's why Ant-Man didn't look as good this time around. That sounds stupid. Don't y'all got different budgets for different movies?
Girl, okay, so you see the thing about the VFX to me, it bothered me in a bit because, as you know, I'm photosensitive. So like there's moments where, like the color is like super intense and then it gets dark. So like for me, it took time for my eyes to adjust for some scenes. And then some of the scenes, the background just seems super murky. And like, it's the quantum realm,
like
and everything.
Focused background for sure. It was like, it's like on an iPhone, or like just like how I am right now, where my background is blurred, and then like you would see Scott.
Yeah,
that's how I felt like some scenes were. It was just like, okay.
Yeah. So for me, like my complaint wasn't the amount of CGI, because as you said, like of course it's going to be predominantly CGI. Most of the MCU films are like not most, all of them are predominantly VFX. And like a lot of people don't realize, but a lot of the regular live action films that we watch have a lot more VFX than we think. Way more VFX than we think. So that wasn't my complaint. My complaint was just like the look of the VFX, because sometimes I have the same issue with Avatar: The Way of Water, and my issue with that was because like some of the scenes were, because when they use a high frame rate to make it more realistic, like that messed with my eyes. So and then when it went back to the regular IMAX cinema style, my eyes took time to adjust. So like it was kind of the same issue for me with Ant-Man and the Wasp. Right. And the other thing, talking about blaming Black Panther. No, don't blame the production. You got to blame Feige and those guys, because they're the ones making the schedule way too packed and way too tight. They're releasing films way too closely. So the VFX artists and a lot of people think it's just like one group, but it's like companies spread around. Like a majority of them are in Vancouver, for instance. And like they have all of these films and shows to work on, like, and like their schedules are so packed. They're overworked, they're underpaid, and they don't have enough time to put in as much detail as they want to. So I would say, don't blame Black Panther. Don't be blaming Ryan Coogler and his team or whatever. Blame the people at the top who are making the decisions and making these schedules, So that's my critique in that aspect. Like for me, the VFX, like, to me, I'm just like, you know what? The teams did the best they could with the with what they were given. And of course, also the directors are the ones who decide, and the executive producers, you know, and the CEOs and all these guys. They're the ones when they see the dailies and when they get the test screenings and all these, and they say, okay, you know what? Let's go back and change this. You know, like, can we do this? Can we add in this thing? That also takes time, you know, and that makes things a bit more difficult for the VFX artists and all that. So I think a lot of people aren't considering that too. So when they're like blaming other, don't blame the project, blame the people who come up with the schedules.
Exactly.
But and also speaking, because this is a QUANTUMANIA, is speaking about the VFX. Another thing about the VFX is this environment. This film actually reminded me a lot of the cartoon that recently came out called Strange New World. Like the character, the animals and the creatures reminded me a lot of that.
Thank you, because I kept on looking at that like red blob. I'm like, you remind me of something, and I can't think of it. And I just watched Strange New World. I like that movie. It's literally that. And when you think about, because of how the ending of that movie, it's almost tied together. But anyways, y'all can go watch that and figure out what we're talking about. But yeah, okay. Now that we've gotten the graphic, and I guess the big one was that MODOK looked really bad. Like people thought that the effects on him looked bad. I'm like, I guess at the end of the day, he's a big head. So I mean, could it have been done differently? Yes, but I just feel like no matter what, it was going to look either weird. I don't know how much more realistic y'all want it to be. To me, it just looked like as if the face was a TV screen. Like that's how I kind of like looked at it at first.
Me
but
too.
anyways, right? Like it just seemed like his face was blown up on a TV screen. I didn't realize like, oh, that's his head. Okay,
his tiny little arms and his tiny little butt and tiny little legs.
Little baby legs. But let's get into the characters. So I feel like we'll get to we can save Kang for last. But yeah, I mean, I don't feel like I got anything too different from what I was expecting when it came to Scott's character, like Paul Rudd's character in this film. I do think, I mean, like it was good, but it's just like I love the Ant-Man movies because like he's probably one of the more cheerier Avengers and has a very cheery disposition. Like he's just a nerd. He's a fanboy who got to become an Avenger, and I love that for him. But it's just like when we're talking about a character arc, I feel like the thing that was advertised to us, that it seemed like and you tell me if I'm wrong, in the trailer it seemed like Kang was offering Ant-Man time to go back in time and to like be back with Cassie so he didn't miss out on that time with her. But it didn't even seem like he even wanted that. So I don't know, and I thought that was going to be part of his whole character arc. Granted, I understand that his whole thing was like he didn't want to miss out on any more time with her. He wanted to like be there with her more as a father. I guess like what was Scott's arc for you in this movie? Because I feel like it didn't really find itself, and I guess maybe I'm going off of what I saw in the trailer. But then like in the film, it was something different, which is fine if they gave us a head fake.
No, I'm the same way, because the thing with this film is we thought there was going to be like maybe some big battle between Kang and Scott and the Wasp and stuff too. And that's what I was expecting. I was expecting maybe a couple of antagonistic interactions, you know, where we see them really exchange from verbal sparring. Because the thing with both of those characters is that they're really great speakers. Like
they are.
Scott Lang is like very funny and witty, but he's also super smart and like he's able to like think really quick on his feet. So I was looking forward to scenes with him and Kang having like these really intense discussions about the timeline and like the consequences of going back and forth. And like even Scott maybe perhaps explain to Kang why he's not willing to have Kang change his past, you know, because like I was looking forward to that, because Jonathan Major, we're gonna talk about Kang a bit more in depth. But the thing about the way that Jonathan plays Kang is that he's very cerebral. And the way he speaks is very measured and very precise. So having a character who speaks like that, opposite Scott, who's more witty and very thing, I was looking for more scenes and interactions with them. You know, we didn't really get that. We didn't really get much interaction with Scott and Kang, which I was just like, huh?
That's the thing that I would thank you. You nailed it on the head because I was looking forward to like not a battle of the minds with them, but a battle of wits versus minds because we know Kang is a genius. Like he is a descendant of Fantastic. So like he is like literally in 8D when we are just getting to 4D. That man is a genius. But it's like we didn't get that, and it's almost like because you've seen Loki, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that Kang that we had in Loki, that energy that he had, I think that is just speaks to like Jonathan Majors, like the full spectrum that he can play, and I love that. But in this film, we were seeing a very different Kang, and like with him and Scott's interactions, it's just like no, it switches very quickly. Like Kang decides, like, well, I tried to be nice. I'm just gonna threaten you now with your daughter's life. And you were going to do what I want regardless. And I was like, okay, well, this is very different from what we thought we were going to get. And I'm not upset at it. But yeah, from there, and then the other story, like, I guess, Hope Van Dyne and Janet Van Dyne, like basically the Van Dynes had a grand time in the quantum realm. And I guess like, I get that they were trying to get to the whole point of like how, let me make sure I said it right. Yeah, not Hope, but Janet. Janet didn't really tell her family anything. And yes, if she had just told her family what was going on in the quantum realm, a lot of this could have been avoided. I mean, why wouldn't you tell them that this man is in the quantum realm and he is a huge threat?
Okay, so I agree with you because, but this is the thing, like, so the writer of this film is Jeff Loveness and the director is Peyton Reed. So the thing is, this isn't an issue that I have with just this film. This is an issue I have with films because this is a trope that frustrates me to no end, where you have a character keeping pivotal information to themselves and just leaving vague hints that there's an issue, vague hints that there's something dangerous coming our way. You know, they think that by keeping quiet and keeping this secret or this potential danger to themselves, they're protecting the people who are placed in harm. I think that is stupid.
It is, because all you're doing in real life
and it's stupid in film.
Yes, and it's just like, and I'm not going to point out all the plot holes in this, and I get it. It's for plot. I think it would have been better, and I'm going off of memory, but like it would have been better if Janet just simply said, "I didn't want you to see me as a monster for what I did," like, because I could see why she would keep it a secret, because like to find out that, oh, you almost helped this guy, but I'm like, but you know your family, they're not going to like treat you like a social pariah because you helped someone who you thought was good and then later you found out he was bad. I'm just like, I'm confused. It doesn't make sense. So yeah, that part just kind of bothered me. I appreciate though that we did get some more time with Janet and Hank and like seeing their dynamic, like basically a glimpse of their dynamic. I'm just gonna say it. Like, should we talk about the ending before we get to Kang? Because I feel like Kang is going to be a big discussion.
Yeah, actually, should we? Well, the ending kind of ties in time because the ending is kind of very anticlimactic and super quick.
It's super Deus Ex Machina level, but like I'm not mad at it because of how it got set up. But it's just like, you know. Anyway. Yeah, so like just long story short, so we'll get into the Kang discussion. Basically because of the super ants that Hank was working on, they got sent to the quantum realm. They became geniuses. They're basically even smarter than Kang and have higher technology than him. And they're the reason that switches the tide of the fight to help Ant-Man beat him. But I did like that the ants did not kill Kang. Like they were not the thing that killed Kang. It was ultimately Ant-Man and Wasp in the end that like ended him. But now let's get into Kang.
So in getting into Kang, this is going to tie in a bit to what we were saying just now. about the ex machina and also Janet keeping quiet. And the reason Janet kept quiet is because of, as you said, she didn't want them to see her as a monster, but also I think her time in the quantum realm was traumatic, you know, and she's still trying to get adjusted to this time. For her, she was in the quantum realm, I think, for like 30 years. But in real time, she was only gone for 5 because remember, she disappeared right before the snap happened. Right before.
Well, no, she disappeared. She disappeared before when Hope was a child. So she's been gone. She came back at the end of the second Ant-Man.
You know what I'm thinking about? Sorry, I'm thinking about when I'm thinking about the end of Ant-Man 2 when that's what I'm confusing. But yeah, she was gone when Hope was a child. But the time for her in the quantum realm was way more than that. So she was gone.
Which, when you think about it, if anybody could relate to what Scott is feeling with Cassie, it's would Janet. Have been Janet. And we do not see much of an exchange between Janet and Scott. And it comes to them talking about this.
Exactly. Okay. And the other thing that frustrates me about that. So she's keeping secrets, and we've established that she was just wrong for that. And just like, it makes no sense. She's an extremely smart woman. She should know better, especially considering the world they live in, where information literally means the difference between life and death. Yeah. But also, like, she was clearly traumatized. She was clearly afraid because every time they mentioned the quantum realm, she was, I think Michelle Pfeiffer did her acting in this film. It was amazing. Her and Jonathan are my 2 stand-up performances. But like, whenever they would talk about the quantum realm, you can see that she's terrified. You can see that she's afraid. And instead of her family reading those cues, letting sleeping dogs lie, they decide to send a signal down to the quantum realm because they're like, oh, you didn't tell us, so we're going to investigate for myself. You guys just survived 5 years of people of like chaos because people went interfering with things they had no business interfering with. Almost everything that happens in the entire MCU is because people went doing shit they had no right doing. Went interfering with things they didn't have no right doing. Iron Man 3, the whole Ultron thing was because Tony went interfering with things he had no right interfering with. So like, you would think these people would understand. Perhaps sending a signal down to the quantum realm, a place, a universe, we have no idea about. Because even if Janet had told them, I think they would have still sent on the signal because they'd be like, oh gosh, and we need to see what these words, this strange world she's talking
about. I think Cassie would have still been like, so these people are down there suffering. We need to go down there and help.
Right.
Which that would have changed the scope of the film because maybe they would have been more prepared. But even then, how could you be prepared against Kang? So yeah, I feel like however it goes, they're destined to go down there. They're destined to go to the quantum realm. And I will say this, I agree with you. Like, Jonathan Majors, the man continues to thrive. And like, I love that he gets to play any range that he can. And I mean, like, I for one am happy about him being Kang because I think with him being Kang and like being the new big bad in Marvel and us now knowing about variants. So like everything that was set up in Loki, and like, when I say chef's kiss, I mean chef's kiss. That man was amazing in them last few minutes of that show. And he set up so much. I love that. But it's like, we get that, and then we get a completely different Kang. And it's just like, we don't know what Kang we're getting next. Or Kangs. And it just feels like, I like that we're going to get this opportunity to see him multiple times. Or, like, he's not gone. And that's something I really like about this casting. Now we can, if you want to talk about the blue face thing, because I feel like my one thing is a lot of people, because it's weird because in the comics there's some iterations where Kang actually has blue skin, I guess, and then there's others where it's like it's literally just a helmet. And it's like, I'm going off of like, I remember the cartoon and he never took the helmet off. So I think the assumption I always had was like, oh, does he have blue skin? And then there's the more recent comics, they have him with the mask. They'll show him with the mask off, and he's a white man. So, and it's like, I guess I'm just glad he was not in the mask the entire movie, and that was the most important thing to me because I would have been upset.
The thing about Kang being, I thought that they were going to make him blue, kind of like how Thanos was purple and Gamora is green. But the thing is if
I'm
they had
glad
made
they
him
didn't.
blue, it would have been also been an issue if they had cast a black man to then paint his skin blue, because that's the same issue that we have with Gamora and also with Mantis and a whole bunch of other people of color actors playing alien characters whose skin is painted a different color. We don't get to see the actors' natural skin tone and like their ethnicity and all that. There's that. But then also my this is perhaps a minor quibble, and I know a lot of people might not see it this way, but and we're going to get into, as we said, we're going to talk about how amazing Jonathan is as Kang, because I think his performance is amazing. But and that being said, my issue with them casting a black man to play Kang is that he's a genocidist. Like Thanos, he believes in wiping out entire civilizations, destroying entire planets to establish his own agenda, you know? Whereas for Thanos, he thought like he was like trying to bring balance to the universe by killing half of the universe, which is garbage. Kang kills people because he sees it as his duty to fight the time. You know, fight the timeline. He sees time as an adversary. He literally sees time as a villain because he's like, I can conquer time. That's why he's a kind of conqueror. So the conquering part of him is like not only about conquering time and metaphysical and the metaphysics and all of that, but it's literally about conquering peoples. Because in the film, we see that he basically committed genocide multiple times, where he eradicated entire communities and civilizations within the quantum realm. Like the quantum realm is its own time, is its own universe. So there's planets and like hundreds of millions of people, and he killed like millions of people. Like the characters that the new characters that we're introduced to are especially those that become allies with Cassie and Janet and Hope and Scott are the last of their people. You know, so like usually we see like one of each, as you would say, race.
Yeah, like the refugee
There's one
camp.
of each, and that's because Kang has destroyed their entire civilization. So I'm like, you could have put this black man as a genocidist, as an imperialist, as a colonialist. I'm like, the context of that to me doesn't work for me. It kind of like, meow.
Okay, so I guess I disagree because like he's a villain. If we like take away the casting, he's a villain. So it was going to be that way regardless. But it's just like, and it's weird because we know that there's different Kangs. Like there's Kangs who are for peace, and then there's Kangs who believe that the only way to, and like at the end of the day, they're all trying to like you said, they're fighting time. They're fighting for control of the timeline. And like the Kang, he who remains, the Kang we met in Loki, described it best, where he's just like, one day I discovered how to get to a different dimension. And when I discovered it, all of my other selves discovered it too. And then it's just like before you start to learn from one another, and then and you grow with one another, and then eventually somebody wants to control everything. So it's like it's interesting because I'm like I don't think every Kang's gonna have that viewpoint. There's definitely, from the end of the movie, we definitely see that like there are a number of Kangs who share these thoughts, and like with the same, like with this other one. But it's just like the thing that I feel like we did not get with Kang in this movie was that I would have appreciated a backstory on him.
Yes.
To understand, because like I'm assuming the one, like, and I'm going off of my very little knowledge of Kang, but like in the cartoon, like Avengers Assemble, they did a whole arc with Kang, and his whole thing was that he had lost the love of his life, and that is what turned him into a villain, and that's what turned him, because he was seeking, I think, a way to save her, or seeking for a timeline to get back to her, and like the other Kangs, like they were fearful of him. So like you have to be one scary to make all the other Kangs scared of you. So like I would have liked to see more of his background, and I think that would have helped flush out his. That's not going to justify what he's doing. He's not well, and I don't mean that as an excuse. I mean, like, no, he truly believes that his way is the only way, and like I agree, it is. But it's like this is how this character's always been, and it's like, yes, similar to Thanos, Kang wants control. and balance in the multiverse. Whereas I think regardless of you cast a white man or a black man, you still should write him to be the same way.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. I don't have a problem with him being a villain. It's just like that was, as I said, it's basically a minor quibble. It was just something that occurred to me as I was watching the film, and then I kind of also thought about how the most recent villains for the MCU are two men of color. But again, a minor quibble, so it's not a big a deal. But I completely agree with you. I wanted more of a backstory on him, and this is not because we're going to dedicate the whole about this, but there are scenes I think that could have been cut to make way for this. First, the introduction of this character played by Bill Murray, who I was just like, he was completely unnecessary.
It just seemed like that
was not needed, because
that scene dragged. That it could have been shorter. I think it should. I think it should have been shorter,
because it didn't need to happen at all. Because any of the characters that like it was, I'm like, when you
realize what happened.
Because eventually Kang would have found them anyway, you know? I'm like, Kang, that scene could have been Kang sending his people to find them. Like, we didn't need this person talking about Kang and like betraying them and taking them to Kang. Because first of all, I don't believe that Janet would have a relationship with him when Kang is right there. Sorry.
That honestly was the most shocking thing. I'm like, I guess depending on when she found out that he was a monster, no. Never mind. No. And I guess you know the process.
All that time they spent together, for sure.
Before I could see something happening there. But anywho, I would also say like it feels so convenient how like that whole scene, I was just like, Hope and Janet and Hank are smart enough to recognize that this is a setup. Like, clearly, this man is in the league with Kane. How else does he have wealth and look completely different from when you first saw him? It should have been the moment he stepped off that something was wrong. You could have instead had Bill Murray dressed down, looking like he was still a rebel, and then have the reveal. But that whole scene, just like you're right, like that dragged for me because I'm like, why are y'all still talking to him? Clearly, he's in league with Kane. Why are you surprised?
Yeah. So like if they took out those scenes, like we could have had scenes that you're talking about that would show us who Kang was, because Janet and Kang, like their whole relationship is kind of what started all of this, you know, because like she helped him get his ship to work, you know, and the reason she helped him get his ship to work is because they were both stranded, and there were these two lonely souls who were stranded on this strange planet with no one else that they communicate with and no one else that can understand the predicament they're in. And they've had a friendship. They had a genuine friendship.
Yep.
And they
trusted one another.
Exactly. And like we got to see, and it's not about humanizing this villain, but I think like for me, it's about showing, as you said, like showing his backstory. And it's not about, as I said, not about humanizing, but it's just like for a character that the MCU has built up so much time making us anticipate who this character is. I'm like, you're not going to give us much more than this. Like, even if they do the next set of projects, perhaps, but I don't see it because he's gone now. This Kang is gone. Kang is gone. And we're not going to get to learn more about him. We're going to have to spend time learning about all the other Kangs. And this was a really good opportunity to, I think, also take advantage of the chemistry that Jonathan and Neysha had. Like, their chemistry on screen is fantastic.
It was so good. Like, it was just like, it's very compelling. Like, you believe that they are a team. You believe that they're working together and that they really did form something, whether it was romantic or not. They formed a bond. And it just, it feels like a wasted opportunity to give us a reveal into like Kang more. And I don't want it to be, this is the thing that I like, to help us like wrap things up. I guess my one concern with Kang going forward is I don't want him to be treated only as a device in the story. I would like him to be treated as truly as a fully fleshed character. Like, tell us more about him. Like, why is he doing this? We know a little bit from the setup in Loki, but I think we're missing the why. And we got that with Thanos. We at least got some of that with Thanos. We didn't get his whole childhood background. And I do agree, like, I'm not trying to say we should humanize villains, but when you think about it, villains are humans. So I do think we should get some peek into who they were before they became the villain. And not to excuse their actions, but to help us understand their motivations.
Exactly. And like I say, sometimes we don't even need a backstory in a villain, because I know some people are just like straight up evil and you don't need an explanation for why. But I think the interesting thing, like for instance, I didn't care about Thanos' backstory. I'm like, guy, you out here trying to kill half the universe. I don't care about you.
He was
I don't need to care about your
terrifying right off the
motivations.
jump.
Exactly. I'm just like, you need to be gone like quick. Like the Avengers, they need to waste time debating with him. I'm like, end this man quick, because he crazy. But the compelling thing about Kang, the difference is like this would have been the first time in the MCU where we see the villains have a friendship with the heroes. If you think about it, we don't, apart from maybe Loki, like his relationship with Thor and the other characters, we don't really get to see how in the MCU, how like the main characters move from a place of friendship to animosity. You know, we didn't get to really see how Janet went from being extremely close with Kang to being terrified of him. And as you said at the beginning, and terrified of her family finding out not only that she helped this man do this horrible thing, but like she was friends with him. So like they missed an opportunity. And so I mentioned Thor and Loki, but then also it would have been also Steve and Bucky. Those are the only really 2 times that we got to see like a really in-depth look at those kind of dynamics where you go from friendship to enemies. And like, especially for an enemy as big as Kang, who has such a big impact on the entire MCU, because what he did in Loki and what he did in this film is going to affect all the rest of the MCU, you know, because all of the other Kangs are going to come because of what he did. So I'm like, they could have taken like a good 10 more, and the film is a really long film. And as we said, they could have taken out all of these scenes, like especially like the character, the red blob thing, like the scenes with him like talking about a hole, and I think like that could have gotten taken out. We didn't need we didn't need that whole shtick. Take that scene out and devote that time to Kang and Neysha, to Kang and Janet.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that would have been better. That would have made it better for me. It would have fleshed them out, because like Kang even says, like, you have no idea what was taken from me. And it's like, yes, because we know that Kang is not just, you know, this homicidal maniac that wants to kill half the universe. No, he wants to control it for a reason. What is his reason? That is, and I don't know if it was deliberate to leave that out because of mystery. But I feel like it was a deliberate choice to leave it out. And I want to know, is like, it's because y'all want to build up to that more. But then at the same time, I feel like that was an opportunity to like really flesh out his character more too.
So like all in all, I still enjoyed the film. It's not like a horrible film. Like I think, as I said, I enjoyed the cast. I think Michelle and Jonathan to me are my standouts, but also Paul Rudd is, again, he's one of the most perfect castings in the entire MCU. Like he is Scott Lang. Like I love his wittiness. I love the energy that he brings to it. He does bring a lot of lightness to a franchise that is pretty emotionally and narratively heavy. And I think Catherine Newton, I think she's also a really good fresh face in the MCU. Like as you said, you mentioned Miss Marvel and some of the young characters that were involved in that series, but also I think for the films themselves, I think Catherine Newton is going to be a really good interjection of energy into the franchise, and I think she did really well with what she was given. So I can't wait to see how they expand the character of Cassie and like what Catherine is able to bring to the character. And with regards to other actors, like, you know who I think also was very underutilized? William Jackson Harper's character.
Oh, from The Good Place.
Yes, because he played.
I want to see him more. It felt more like a cameo.
I wait for them to bring him back, maybe in Loki, because Loki is involved in time traveling. So
yes. Honestly, now that you say that, because even though we didn't get the confirmation that the TVA is in the quantum realm, we do at least know that, like, from all of this, we know that it is in the quantum realm, because at the end of it, you see Kang's statue. So I feel like Loki season 2 has a great opportunity to really examine the displacement of the people that Kang caused, and like also explore more of like the life in the quantum realm from that, like, on a smaller scale. See what I did there, y'all? I'm proud of myself for that one. Anyways, I feel like that'll be a great opportunity to explore that more in Loki. And honestly, some of it did feel like a setup for that show. I was thinking, I'm like, ooh, these are interesting characters. Are these people we could like potentially see? Either like if Ant-Man wants to explore if Ant-Man wanted to go the route of like, okay, do people in the quantum realm have the same rights as people up there? What does it look like if you have like now these people who are down there, and then like do you allow, like, y'all are freely coming to them, like do y'all need to create some checks and balances? Like it's I think it opens a lot of discussion and opportunity to expand on.
I agree. So we'll see what else is in store for the MCU. So the only upcoming film in the MCU is Captain Marvel 2. So that one has been pushed back, I think, to November this year. So is it this year? Yeah, November this year for release.
Dang. So I think we should be getting Loki season 2 this year. So that might be it. Loki's the only returning TV show, at least not. Oh, and we're supposed to get a Captain America movie, but I don't think that's till 2024. So you're right. That might be it.
I think that's it. So yeah. So everyone, that is our episode of So Here's What Happened for January and February. As usual, you can find links to our coverage. So for the interviews that I did for the Confessions of Frannie Langton, the interview that I did with Sarah and Carolyn Simone, I'm going to link in the description box for this, as well as my piece on Bridgerton, because it was actually that piece that got me the interview, because the publicist saw my article on Bridgerton and reached out to me to do coverage for the show.
That's amazing.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram and on TikTok too. I now have a TikTok where I just post like mini vlogs. So here's what happened, mini vlogs of films that I screen here in Toronto. So find those on my hashtag using my handle at CarrieCNH12 using the hashtag SHWH. Go to my R3 page, that's AUTHORY.com/Carolyn Heights to find links to all my published work, podcast, YouTube channels, including So Here's What Happened. And you can find So Here's What Happened also on butwhythough.net and on Acast and other podcast streaming platforms. I'm not going to go into a long spiel. Tell the people where they can find you and your work, Neysha.
Yes, y'all can find me on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter at Neysha Plays. That's at NEYSHAPLAYS. I'll be putting more content out there once I move into my new place and I get my space together. So new cosplays will be coming. I'm also working on more features for But Why Though, and I'm just trying to survive grad school, y'all. But I did want to mention that Kate and I have brought back Did You Have To? So I'm really excited about that. We put out an episode 2 weeks ago, so y'all can go ahead and check that out. And we have some more stuff coming up soon. So yay, more anime things.
Yay! And Neysha is going to be soon finished with school, y'all. She's in her last semester. I'm so proud of Neysha.
It's the fact we've been on this. We've done this podcast longer than I've been in grad school. But it's just been like, it's been 83 years.
It's true, because our very first episode of So Here's What Happened was a discussion of Avengers Endgame. So yes. I think it's almost kind of fitting that you're going to finish as we're talking about the MCU. Like, we've come so far. I'm proud of us. I can't say that enough, but I'm so proud of us. Like, we've done amazing.
We have done amazing. I'm proud of us too. And on to bigger and better things. That's all I can say, especially for this year. So as we said at the beginning of the show, we are manifesting.
Amen. Amen. Good thoughts, positive thoughts. And with that, everyone, until the next episode of So Here's What Happened, stay safe.
Bye.